Hello, everyone, and good afternoon or morning, wherever you're listening from. You're here with ScanForce once again, part of our educational webinar series. Today, we're going to be focusing specifically on manufacturing. And my name is Brian Berry. I'll be your master of ceremonies today as we go through and talk about everything manufacturing that we have in the Sage 100 world. So real quick, let's talk about what we're going to talk about during the presentation. I'm going to do a really quick overview as to who we are and what we do. I know for many of you, we're a known entity, but for those that may be first timers, just want to give you a quick flavor, a quick overview. I promise I won't dwell too much there, bore you. Then we're going to jump right into the manufacturing suite and talk about the various options that we have for manufacturing, and then we'll drill down and look at each one of them individually. At the very end, we'll do a demo, and then hopefully we'll have some time for some Q&A at the back end, okay? All right, so by way of introduction, and first of all, I always promise folks on these presentations, I don't read slides to you. You're gonna get a copy of this. You can go through and read it at your leisure, but I'm not gonna bore you by reading slides. We all went to kindergarten, everybody can read for themselves. I just like to kind of hit the high points here. And again, you're gonna get a copy of this so you can go back over this, share it with others internally if you would like as well. We encourage you to do so. So the takeaway here is we've been around for quite a while. We've been doing this for better than 20 years. We have well over 8,000 users in the Sage 100 world. We grew out of the Sage 100 world. We're not a one-stop shop, one-size-fits-all warehouse management system, barcoding system for every ERP in the world. We're very Sage focused. So we have, again, over 8,000 users on the Sage 100 platform alone. One of the things that I do want to point out on this particular screen, right here in the middle, where we talk about working in a connected and a disconnected environment, I do want to spend just a second and touch on that, because it really speaks to the power of our architecture, the way our system was designed and developed from the very beginning. When I say work in a connected and disconnected environment, what I mean is if we have a real-time Wi-Fi connection to Sage, we'll use it and we'll communicate directly back and forth. But for a lot of you, I talk to people all the time that have areas outside their building where they have a laydown yard for big, bulky things, metal products, lumber products, things like that. And they don't have Wi-Fi coverage outside. And they say, can I still use your system and do barcode scanning and collect all this data? Absolutely is my answer, because we can work again in this disconnected environment. Once we have the transaction, be it a sales order, purchase order, whatever, loaded up on the handheld, then we can completely disconnect from Sage, go out and collect all the data that we need. Even we have no connection back to Sage in real time. And then once we reacquire that signal, that Wi-Fi coverage area, then we'll sync back up. So just a little feather in our cap. We're the only ones in the market that can do that. And it's something that we certainly like to tout. Now, what we do, most people think of us as the barcoding company, and that's great. I hope that you do. The primary product that folks think about when they hear the name ScanForce is our WMS, or Warehouse Management System, is what that stands for. We have 3 different versions or editions. We call them Core, Select, and Premier, and it's simply just a step up in functionality. But don't think of it as small companies need Core, big companies need Premier. Actually, we quite find the opposite to be true quite often. We have some large companies and the feature set in Core meets all of their needs. But then we have some small companies and Premier meets their needs better. It's all about finding the right mix. And we go into great detail in the very first conversation that we have with any of our potential clients that are interested in looking at our solutions. We do a discovery call, and we're going to overturn every stone. We're going to find out exactly what your needs are, which features and functions you need, and we're going to help you plug into the right version. Over to the right, you see mobile sales. Now, we didn't come to talk about mobile sales today, but just want to whet your appetite, see if we can tickle your fancy a little bit. Mobile sales typically runs on like a tablet, think iPad. If you have an outside sales force, if you have counter sales where people come in and place orders, if you want to take orders from a trade show floor, mobile sales is for you. All of the Sage order entry processes are available to you via our mobile sales application. And you can be completely disconnected from Sage, and they aren't Sage users. So these people that are out there entering sales orders and quotes and things aren't Sage users. They're just using our solution to pump data back into Sage. And you can get up to the second pricing and inventory levels and things like that. Do signature capture, take credit cards. Fantastic solutions, and it's very inexpensive. This is a $2,500 thing, not a $25,000 thing. So if that's of interest, let's talk offline. We also do label printing. It's sort of built into our warehouse management system for those clients that need our labeling suite. At receipt of goods, we can print a label. That way we can scan everything downstream. Also coming out of manufacturing, if you want to label finished goods or at the time of shipping. So just know that we can provide those barcode labels. A lot of people say, I'd love to do barcoding, but none of our stuff comes in barcoded. That's okay. We can handle that. We have the solution. And last but not least, manufacturing. This is what we're going to spend our bulk of time talking on about today. Legacy work order, bill of materials, production management, and then an add-on or tweak to production management called make to order. And we're going to get into all those in just a moment. Now, some things that we think set us apart that I want to highlight for you. Number one, speed. Our application is very quick. We don't want to slow your people down. We want to speed them up. It's a lot faster to zap a couple of barcodes than grit a piece of paper and find your pen and write a bunch of stuff down. Another aspect of our speed, other than just the flow of things, is we loaded up 1 million records into Sage several years ago and did a speed test. We just wanted to see how fast really was the system that we tell people is fast. Let's prove it. Well, we asked for one discrete piece of information and it returned it in less than 0.03 seconds. So even by computer standards, that is screaming fast, okay? But it's also very intuitive. And I'm going to show you some examples of that as we go through today. And what I mean by that is I did a demo this morning and I told somebody, it's like, I'm not here to teach your people how to unload a truck when they do receiving. But what I want to do is instead of scribbling down a bunch of chicken scratch on a piece of paper, I want them to have a successive flow of screens that makes perfect sense where they can enter the item, the quantity, the location that they're putting it. So it's the same thing that they've always done on paper. We're just going to let them do it electronically. And then support. When I talk about support, I'm talking about the customer service that we provide all of our clients when they come to partner with us, do business with us. And please don't take my word for it. I encourage you, ask anybody else in the Sage 100 world and just say, what do you think of when you hear ScanForce and support? And let them tell you that we do it as good or better than anybody that's out there. And we have many customers that will back us up on that. Now, as for the products that are made with our solution, these are some very familiar names to many of you. You know, what self-respecting Italian would make lasagna without using Barilla pasta? I mean, come on, forget about it. Gotta have it. But joking aside, let's jump in. Let's talk about manufacturing. So the first thing I want to talk about is work order, but we're not going to talk about it long because Sage kind of wants work order to go the way of the dodo. This is something that Sage has been trying to phase out for years, and there's a new version, and we're going to talk about what that is, but just know that we can still support it. So if you're working on an older version of Sage, if you're still using work order, we can still have this conversation and talk about using this in a multi-bin environment or not, material issues, completions, all that good stuff. So if work order is still something that you have and you want to use, we can still assist. Now, the two things that are out there that are more current today, the first of which is bill of materials, all right? Bill of materials is great if you're doing basic assembly. You're taking some things, you're putting it together. A lot of customers that are doing repackaging, things of that nature, where it's essentially a one-step process. We're putting things together and we do it kind of all at one time. Now, this again can work either with or without multi-bin. If you don't know what I mean by multi-bin, then we definitely need to have a one-on-one conversation, and I can fill you in on what DSD ScanForce multi-bin is all about and how it fits into the Sage inventory picture, okay? So you can capture all the production entry. We do this on either a rugged mobile handheld. I'm going to show you an example a little bit down the road. You can also do it from a PC. There's two methods, backflush or component, and you're going to hear me talk about those throughout the day, so let me tell you a little bit about those. Backflush simply means the recipe never changes. For instance, if I make tables, I always need a top, and I need 4 legs, because I'm never going to make a 3-legged table. So all I really need to do is tell Sage I made 10 tables, and it knows to relieve 10 tops and 40 legs. Again, the recipe never changes. So backflush is a very fast and easy thing to do to collect the data. Or some of you may have variants or selections or options. So you may have to choose the individual components on each individual bill. In other words, the recipe does change from mix to mix. So you need to identify the raw materials that are going into production. If you're using lot numbers or serial numbers, this is important for you because you'll need to trace which lot number flowed into this or which serial numbers were consumed to create the ultimate finished goods, okay? Now, in addition to the base bill of materials, we also have some enhancements that plug into that as well. One of them that's very popular is called bill of materials picking. So imagine you want to do a physical picking step where you go into the racking system or storage area and you grab all the parts and pieces that you need to make this thing on the bill, and you physically move them to the production area, and you want to be able to track that. This is really popular with multi-bin users. You can do a bin transfer, and it can go from a storage bin to a production area bin, okay? Also, final adjustments. If you say I made 10 tables, that's great, but at the very end, you're doing an inspection. You say, oh, wait a minute, this one's got a crack in it. We got to scrap it. So we didn't make 10, we only made 9. We need the ability to go back kind of after the fact and input that. We give you the ability to do that too. Okay, so that's bill of materials. That's the first option. The second option in the Sage manufacturing spectrum is production management. That's what we're going to spend most of our time talking about today. So let's dive in. First of all, this is the replacement for work order. Since 2019, Sage has been trying to phase out work order and promote production management, okay? And since 2019, I can actually brag, we were the first company that offered a mobile solution for production management. Those of you that understand the long sordid history of production management know why that's kind of humorous and why I might want to mention it. If not, let's talk. This likewise can integrate with multi-bin or in a non-multi-bin environment, and it's great for multi-step productions. So if I make something in step 1 that's going to become a sub-assembly that will be consumed in step 2, and so on and so forth, production management, that's for you, okay? You can do material issues where you say, these are the parts I'm going to consume in this step, okay? Then at the very end, you do a completion. Now I have a finished good, okay? And here's the kicker. I can track labor. Can't do that in bill of materials, but I can do it here with production management. And I'm sorry, my mouse goes away if I pause for a second. So I can do this. I can either just after the fact go in and say I spent 20 minutes on this job, or I can use time clock, which is by far more popular. And you can see here, big green button clock in, big red button clock out. Green means go, red means stop. Remember at the very beginning when I said the screens were intuitive? This is kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about, okay? Now, how is this different than bill of materials? Well, bill of materials, great for one-step process, an assembly process. I put these things together. I'm repackaging something like that. You tell the system what you want to make, how many you want to make, the components you want to use. That's an option where you can backflash. And then poof, you're done. At the end, you got a brand new shiny finished good, and we're going to consume all the component raw material inventory, and they're going to come out of stock. Okay? Very simple. Very straightforward, very popular in Sage. We have tons of users using bill of materials. But with production management, we generally think of that as a little sophisticated, a little more highbrow, if you will, because it is a lot more flexible and more powerful, and you can do all these other things. You can do a lot of track planning. You can issue out the materials as you go instead of all at one time, like in bill of materials. You can also track that labor. The labor can be tracked as an individual or as a crew. Okay, which is kind of interesting. You can group people together and say this group of people did something, or that group of people is going to do something next, that sort of thing. And at the end, you get a finished good, print your labels if you want to, finished good labels, that sort of thing. Now, this production management creates these work tickets. That's the term for the actual transaction or the traveler document that moves around that tells production actually what to do. So, in the creation of this work ticket, you can go in manually and create a work ticket in Sage. Absolutely, people do it all day, every day. But we built a better mousetrap, and that's what I mentioned to you very early on that was called Make to Order. Make to Order is a piece of software that runs on the Sage server side, not in the warehouse. So this isn't one of our handheld barcode scanning components. This is really running on the server side, and what it does is it watches your salespeople enter sales orders. If it recognizes an item that needs to be produced on a work ticket via production management, one of 3 things can happen. We're going to give them a new button on the sales order entry screen, I'm going to show you in a moment, that says sales can just click that button and they can create the work ticket based on the item that needs to be made, or items that need to be made. Or Make to Order can go in and say, hey, Mr. User, you just made this sales order, here's something on there that needs to be made. You want me to create a work ticket for you? Or it can just say, you know what, I'm just going to do it automatically. Totally transparent to the salesperson. They don't even have to ever know it happens, but it's one less thing that people have to do. And I told you in the beginning I wasn't going to read slides, but I'm going to go slightly off script here. Bear with me. Listen to this quote. We are loving the Make to Order enhancement. Some of our sales orders have 10 lines that need work tickets created, and doing it with 1 click in sales order entry is amazing. Thank you. Okay? That sums it up very, very well. make to order, very small piece, add on, very big impact, okay? And here's what it looks like. If I'm doing a sales order entry, we're gonna give you a button, and you can, hopefully you could read this hover text, it's not too small for you. But it says create work ticket. So I need to make a desktop computer, I can click the button, make a work ticket right there. Or if I'm in sales order entry and I have it set to prompt, it's gonna give you this message. Do you wanna create a work ticket for this item, yes or no? Or the other option is it just automatically creates it. Can't show you that on the screen, it just kind of happens by magic, okay? So the reason people like to use work tickets, it's flexible, okay? I can certainly make things for stock and I can fill my coffers, and when I get orders, I know I have them, but I can also tie them to a sales order, okay? So when I create something, it's linked to that sales order, knows exactly what I need to make and how much and for who and all that jazz, okay? And we can also stage these work tickets as sub-assemblies. So step A creates something that feeds work ticket B, and work ticket B creates something that feeds work ticket C, and on down the list. And at the end of the road, you started with a bunch of metal and wires and you end up with a car, okay? So multi-step process there. It's also flexible in that you can have multiple steps on one work ticket. So rather than having a string of multiple work tickets, you can have one work ticket that has multiple steps, and each step has unique inventory that needs to be consumed at different work centers. Okay? And just like in bill of materials, we can either backflush this or we can do it by component. We can either tell it, the system, hey, every time I make one of these are the 18 items that I have to use, and it's just going to flush those out of the system, or you can go in and select it manually. We can also have it auto attribute labor, or like I showed you before, where you can do the start and stop yourself, okay? So anytime you're building something complex, okay, something that's complicated, like building a computer, I'm going to build the motherboard first, and I've got to have that, and I've got to solder in chips and capacitors and resistors or whatever the heck else, electronic components, okay? And then I've got to do the wiring harness. So each one of those can either be a work ticket unto itself or multiple steps within one work ticket. Eventually, you're going to come up with the finished product. You can track the labor all along the way. Each individual person does their little part, can apply their labor to it. So ultimately, all the labor rolls up and connects back to the work ticket itself. Okay, and at the very end, you do the completion, and then you can print out your finished good labels if you wish. All right. So how does this make my life better? Okay. Well, again, it's very flexible. Like I said, this could be either done from a PC or from a mobile handheld terminal or mobile handheld device like a barcode scanner. So you can either be stationary or mobile. And again, this, like mobile sales and so forth, these people in the warehouse are not Sage users. Okay, let me reiterate. These are ScanForce users, not Sage users. So you don't need Sage licenses for this. Okay, that's a big thing. The tracking in real time, you can track every little step along the way and the labor that's attributed all along the way. And when it comes to efficiency, what's more efficient? Let's see, here's my piece of paper. Where did I put my pen? Oh yeah, here it is. Let me write down everything I did, or zap this barcode, zap that barcode. I made 10, hit enter. Which one's more efficient? And maybe even a bigger question, which ones are going to be more accurate at the end of the day? Zap, zap, send is a lot more accurate than writing something down and somebody else trying to interpret my chicken scratch and then trying to key that into the system, okay? So and that goes across our entire warehouse management system. So if you want to do receiving, if you want to do shipping, if you want to do physical inventory, that's part of our larger WMS. Today, we're focusing strictly on manufacturing, but a lot of these concepts that I'm talking about apply across our entire ecosystem here at ScanForce, okay? Now, we can't talk about production management without also mentioning IRP, which is Inventory Requirements Planning. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is not our product. This is a Sage product. This is a component that goes along with production management when you purchase that module from Sage, okay? But what it does is just what it says in the name, it helps you plan what you need to make. It knows based on sales orders and reorder points and work tickets and all this stuff that you set up behind the scenes, it knows the raw materials that you're going to need to make and helps you plan that from a purchasing standpoint, okay? And it is dynamic based on things that happen, and it will change over time. And you also have this production board, purchase board, where you could say, do I have time or do I have the stuff I need to go and purchase the raw materials to make this, or do I just need to go out and buy it? okay? So you can make those sorts of decisions along the way, all right? So IRP kind of got a little bit of a bad rap when it first came out. A lot of people thought maybe it doesn't have all the stuff that it should, okay? But it's gone through a couple of iterations. If you haven't ever looked at it, or if you looked at it before and thought maybe it wasn't quite fully baked for your needs, might be time to take a look at it again. So certainly talk to your Sage reseller partner about production management and IRP and how they can fit together, and they can set up a demo for you, okay? All right, let's go and get a demo going here. I'm going to switch over to this screen, and hopefully now everybody can see that I have an example of a handheld device up here, and I have my manufacturing menu up here on our software. Now, this is the way our screen would display on this device. Now, the device itself is manufactured by Zebra. That's who we typically partner with. You may be familiar with Zebra from the printers that they make, but these are really rugged devices. They have a drop rating of multiple 4-foot drops to concrete. You could drop this thing in water and not fry it. It's really, really rugged. Shown here, snapped in an optional pistol grip. The window for the scan engine is right up under here, so you just point it, pull the trigger, and it's going to read your barcodes for you. If you cut the screen off of that, it's going to look just like this, okay? So let me just show you a little bit more about what we're doing here with production management. Same menu that I showed you before, except I have the bill of materials options grayed out. We're not going to do a demo of those today. We're going to concentrate on production management work tickets. That's this WT thing that you see here, okay? So the first thing that someone would typically do before they start doing anything, they would clock into their job. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to scan myself. I'm going to be Javier today. And I'm going to then scan the work ticket. Now, this is probably going to be a barcode scan on the piece of paper. The traveler document that comes around, we can put a barcode on there and you can scan it. And not only can that scan identify the work ticket, it can also often identify the step that we're working on. I can say, you know, this is step 10 in this process, and I can go ahead and hit the big green button and I can clock in. Now, that's really, normally that's just a scan, click, and you're done. This is a 2 or 3 second operation. So I know I talked through it as we went, but it's a really fast thing. So the first thing I want to do is gather my raw materials. I want to attribute the components that are going to go towards this work ticket. I'm going to select the same work ticket that we used a moment ago. There's my step number of the warehouse I'm working in. Now it's ready for the first item, okay? Now, again, if I have a piece of paper, the traveler document, I can see that. I can read it. I know exactly what I need to go get. But let me show you what it's like in a paperless environment. A lot of people come to us and say, I want to get rid of the paper. I'm drowning in paper. I want to get rid of it. That's okay. We could do that. If I come up here and hit this search button, it's going to show me the 2 items that I need for this step in the process. I'm making a computer. Step number 10 is build the motherboard. So in order to do that, I need 5 of these items and I need 2 of these. This is my item code, my description, and the quantities, okay? So I'm just going to select the first item, or I could scan it with a barcode. Obviously, that's what we'd rather do because it's more accurate. And now I'm showing you an example in a multi-bin environment, okay? If you're non-multi-bin, then you just don't see the screen, and that's okay. But what it needs to know is, in a multi-bin environment, where are you pulling this inventory from? Now, I have 139 of these sitting over there on aisle A, rack 200, bin 10, okay? But someone was nice enough to move 10 of these to an area that I call components for production, kind of a holding area or staging area by my manufacturing area where I can just quickly go grab stuff rather than crawling around in the racking system or getting on a man lift or something like that and cherry picker and going and getting them out of the racks. So I'll say, yeah, I'll just pull them from right there because they're easy to get to. Now there's 10 available in that bin. I only need 5, so I'm going to grab 5 of them, okay? The next item, you'll notice the first one has dropped off the list. I need 2 of these. So I'm going to go get these. Okay, now this is a lotted item. I wanted to show you this in case some of you do have lot numbers. If you don't, then this just doesn't apply, and that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this from that same component area. I only need 2 of them, but I have to identify what lot number. Now again, if I have a barcode on the document that I can scan for the item, it can also contain the lot number. So this can automatically be pre-populated for me via barcode scan. But since I'm not doing barcode scanning today, I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. It's a little more cumbersome to do this with the mouse than to do it with the barcode scanner, but I want you to get the feel for the flow of the screens. Okay, so I've collected everything that I need. I can go ahead and send that on back over to Sage, and I've updated that. All right, back to my menu. Let's say, now I could clock out. If that's the end of my job. I clock out, I'm done. Somebody else clocks in, they do their part. But for this portion, I'm gonna keep going and do the whole transaction as if I'm doing just everything at one time. So I've done my work, I've done my soldering. I'm going to go in and do my completion. Again, I can scan this document rather than clicking through here. And the location where this is going to be born into. This is a new finished goods, a new item. And if I'm working in multi-bin, those of you that are familiar with it, you know you have to tell it where it's being born into the warehouse. Well, I have a location that I created called finished goods from production. Okay, you could call it whatever you want, but this is just the initial place where things get born into out of production, and then we can move it to the shipping area or into inventory. I was supposed to make 5. I'll say yes, indeed, I did make 5. If I want to print labels, I can do that right here, okay? And then I could go ahead and send that on back over, okay? So I'm done. I've done my material issues, I've identified the raw materials, I've done my completion, okay? I started the time clock, but I didn't stop it, all right? I want to show you something else. Let me bring this up. I'm going to hit refresh here. Look at this transaction that started at 2:22 Eastern. This was Javier working on a work ticket ending in 17, making a desktop computer. I started my process at 2:22. Well, it's now 2:26, although I think this is a clean screen. You can't see my clock in the bottom corner. Sorry about that. But I don't have a finish time. So you'll notice that this is highlighted in yellow. What that means is this is what's in process right now. I haven't entered that final finished time yet. So from a management perspective, if you're looking at our management console on the labor tracking tab, anything highlighted in yellow is happening right now. So as a manager, I look at this, I can see exactly what's happening. I can see who's doing it, the handheld device that they're using, when they started, you know, and now I can track their progress, okay? And I can see that this step was done in 5 minutes. This was done in 11. This was done in 15, okay? I'm gonna bring the handheld back up here for just a second. Okay, scoop this over here a second. I'm gonna go back at a time clock. And remember, I'm Javier, so I need to select myself from the list, or I scan a barcode on my badge or something like that. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to, whoops, wrong step. That's my fault. I'm going to identify that I was doing step 10 there, okay? And I'm going to clock out, okay? Now, when I clock out, if I refresh this, you'll notice it's not highlighted in yellow anymore. It's done. There's my finish time. It took me 5 minutes. But if Javier comes back to me and says, hey, you know what? It really didn't take me 5 minutes. I just got distracted. I forgot to clock out. It really only took me 3 minutes. I say, you know what, Javier, I got your back. That's okay. I'll fix that right here. And then I can select this one and submit it, or I can do this and submit everything that isn't in progress. And that's when it gets sent back over to Sage. Okay? All right, that's everything that I'd hoped to show. We have a couple of minutes left. So Darcy, if you don't mind, can you check the chat and see if we have any questions that are out there?
I am checking. We do. The first one is, do I need the full WMS to get the production management part?
Actually, no. Of course, we would love to sell you the full WMS if you're interested, but production management can be a standalone piece, okay? And the make-to-order piece can be a standalone piece, or those two can be bundled together, or they can be bundled together with our full warehouse management system to do receiving and shipping and physical count and all the other bells and whistles that we have.
Okay, does the lot number entry validate against a database or just accept whatever is entered?
Oh, no, it absolutely validates, okay? So yes, it will validate. If you have the valuation method in Sage for that item code set to lot, that kicks in extra logic on our handhelds where we're gonna start requiring lot number entry, and it is validating that data.
Great, next question. Do you need a Zebra scanner or can it be used with an iPhone or iPad instead?
Yes, so we can run natively on Android or iOS or a Windows PC. So we partner with Zebra, that's what we sell, but we often have customers come to us and say, you know what, we migrated from some other system, or we acquired a company and they already had some scanners that are made by a different company, can you use them? Chances are probably so. Just let us know what the model number is and we'll verify.
Okay, one more coming in so far. Do you support multiple employees clocked in different steps at the same time?
Absolutely, and thank you for asking because I failed to mention that. I think so. When you're doing that clock in, it can either be an individual or what we call a crew. And you can set up a crew that can be any number of individuals. You can have different crews set up. And so you can select those crews and it attributes the labor across all those individuals. So thank you for asking.
All right, we got a couple more coming in. So can we go back to make changes to quantities used or lot numbers used after we have moved past a step?
Well, yes, you can. It depends from us what you have sent to Sage. Okay, so if you've already sent it to Sage from our handheld, it's in Sage, and you would go back and make that change there. If it's still on our handheld, if it hasn't been sent back, you have finished that transaction, then you could go in and delete what you entered originally and then re-enter it correctly. So there's a couple different ways to go about that.
Okay, two more. What printers do you support for label printing?
Pretty much anything. Again, bring us the list that you've got. Certainly, if it's a Zebra, you're pretty good, but your Datamaxes, your Zatos, your old Intermax, your things like that, we have a defined list of printer drivers that are supported by the software. So just ping us an email, let us know what you've got, and we can tell you yes or no really quick.
Can crews be dynamic?
The crews do need to be set up ahead of time. So, I don't know, I don't believe that there's a facility in the system where you can dynamically say this person, this person, this person. But I'll check on that for you, and we will have a record of who asked this question, and I'll circle back with you and make sure we give you a definitive answer on that.
Okay, well, that person's got a couple more questions, so I think we'll go ahead and wrap up with our 30 minutes and circle back with you individually on these more specifics.
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you very much, Darcy, and thank you everyone for attending. You will get a copy of the recording, so please share that around internally. And if you have any questions, just ping us. Our phone number and email are on the screen. That info email address comes directly to me, so I will see it and I'll get back with you right away. Again, thanks for joining.